Let's start today with an obvious statement. Life changes.
Ain't it funny how life changes? You wake up, ain't nothing the same.
Thanks for joining me today. My name is David Hammack Jr. and I'm the Director of Students at our Oregon campus. If you're anything like me, you've probably experienced a lot of change in your life. Think about it. You look different than you did when you were a little kid.
When you're spending every day on your own, and here it goes. I'm just a kid, and life is a nightmare.
Your wardrobe is probably different than it was in 5th grade.
All right, I'm about to show you what I wore in middle school when I thought I was like the coolest looking person in the whole school. So, needless to say, this did not impress the ladies.
You probably don't listen to the same music that you did 3 years ago. I mean, 3 years ago, I thought that country music was the dumbest thing ever. And now, these are all changes that for the most part are expected. No one expects to look the same way they did in elementary school. But there are also some changes that are unexpected. Changes that feel like they show up out of nowhere. And unlike changes in fashion trends or musical tastes, these types of changes can be a little bit more difficult to deal with. There are so many possibilities of unexpected change life can throw at us. For example, maybe you've had friendships that changed out of the blue. Maybe there was a person or a group of people you were close with, you trusted them, but something happened to take you and those people in different directions. And now you don't know if that friendship will ever be the same.
Jim, I called off my wedding because of you. And now we're not even friends. And things are just like weird between us, and that sucks. And I miss you. You were my best friend before you went to Stanford. And I really miss you.
Maybe it was a dating relationship. You thought it was going really great, but all of a sudden, you're being dumped. You're not even sure why. Unexpected change not only happens in relationships, but in plenty of other areas of life as well. Whether it's moving to a different neighborhood, to a different school, or a different state, a change in location can feel like your life is starting all over. Unexpected financial challenges can have completely huge impacts on families and friendships, and it makes it difficult for you to do the things you love to do. Getting cut from the team, failing in class, it can really change the way that you feel about your abilities and yourself, especially if you tried your best to make it. And as we've all become really aware of during 2020, health challenges of any kind can bring catastrophic change on families and communities. No matter how big or small, unexpected changes have a way of disrupting our lives, and if we let them, they can drive us crazy.
Changes, they might drive you half insane, but
It doesn't matter how old you are, how much money you have, where you live, or if you're famous or not. Unexpected change affects all of us. And because of that, we need some sense of stability. We all want something that stays the same no matter what, some place, some person or group that we know will be there for us when nothing else feels secure. For many of us, we've considered family to be that thing for us. For others, family has never been a safe or secure place, but for all of us, there's the idea, either from our own experience or a belief that we have, that family should be a constant. Even if it's not, we expect it to be. So when change happens in a family, it can be much more difficult to deal with. Maybe you've experienced this. Maybe your parents got divorced. You thought your parents would be together forever, and there didn't seem to be anything going wrong, but then suddenly they split up. Maybe you got a new addition to the family, a new brother, a new sister. As the oldest of 5 kids, I know all about how big of a change and disruption this can be in our lives. Sure, you're still loved and cared for, but you get less and less attention with every added sibling. Or maybe even it was an added step sibling or step parent. Maybe for you, your parents got a new job and they had to move away for a little bit, and the rhythms of seeing your parents changed quite a bit. Maybe you had a parent, a grandparent, or sibling pass away. Whether it was expected or unexpected, there's no way of preparing for that kind of loss. For my family and I, this whole year has been full of change and really tough as we've navigated the unexpected loss of my mamaw last October. So for those of you who have recently experienced family change due to the loss of a loved one, I understand what you're going through. And I want you to know that you matter. You matter to me, you matter to our team, and you matter to your group leader. Most importantly though, you matter to God. Now, no matter what our experience is with change, something about it happening in our families makes it so much more difficult. So the question is, if avoiding change isn't possible, how do we get better at handling it? Is there a way to navigate change in our family so it doesn't cause us to become bitter or cynical? How can we be best prepared for the inevitable changes that happen in a family? When you look at the Bible, you might be surprised to see that a lot of its writers were helpful when it comes to dealing with change. In fact, King Solomon, he had a lot to say about change. Solomon was an ancient king of Israel, and God blessed him with incredible wisdom. In fact, he is commonly known as the wisest man who ever lived. You may be thinking, I'm glad that an ancient king from a place I've never heard of was wise. What does that matter for my life, and how does that affect change in my family? Well, I'm glad you asked. In this passage we're going to look at, Solomon is writing about some things he's observed in his lifetime, and that includes change. Check it out. There's a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to tear down, a time to build, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to scatter stones, a time to gather them, a time to embrace, to refrain from embracing, a time to search, a time to give up, a time to keep, a time to throw away, a time to tear, a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, a time for peace. There's a time for everything. It's a very poetic way of saying everybody's got change coming. Everybody get ready. It's gonna happen. Nothing stays constant. The things you're experiencing today, they'll look different tomorrow. This is the world we all live in, so we might as well get used to it. In some ways, this can be kind of depressing. I would love to hear that there's a way that I can make change less painful, or even better, that I can make change disappear and stop from happening at all. But that's not what Solomon's saying. In fact, he's saying the opposite. He's letting us know that everything will change at some point or another. It's inevitable. But the truth is that when we know things will change, both in our families and the world around us, we can be prepared to deal with it. Instead of fighting change and pretending like things will always be the same, we can open our hands and give up control. God is fully aware of everything that changes in our lives. He knows that the good and bad will show up in our lives, but neither will last forever. But in this life of constant change, God also makes a promise to us. He doesn't promise to make all the difficulty go away, but he does promise to be with us always. God shared this promise with the people of Israel during a time of great trouble for them. At this time, they were either in captivity or coming out of exile in Babylon. Their world was falling apart. They had been forced to leave their homes, live in a land with people who spoke different languages, worshiped different gods, and were hostile to their very way of life. Everything that felt safe, secure, and stable all of a sudden was shaky. And in the midst of this, God gave this message to the people through the prophet Isaiah. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. Imagine the comfort that must have brought the people hearing it. When everything around them was changing, God wasn't. The same is true for us. In every single moment and season of change, including family change, God is with us. He's walking through the difficult waters with us. We are never alone. God is never caught off guard by the change in our lives. And if he has promised to be with us, then that must be exactly what we need. Jesus reiterated this comforting message to his followers right before he was about to leave them and return to his Father in heaven. Over the course of the 3 years they spent with him, they had experienced lots of unexpected change. They had grown very close with him, they watched him die, and 3 days later they saw him rose from the dead. They had already experienced a lot of unexpected change, and now they were bracing for yet another change, as he was no longer going to be with them in person. But Jesus reassures them with these words, "And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." This is Jesus' promise for all of his followers, past, present, and future. When change comes your way, he will be with you. When your family changes, Jesus is with you. Jesus is with and for you in the midst of any family change. He loves you and he cares so much about you. He will always be there with you to guide you through these tough seasons of family change. When someone in your family moves out, Jesus is with you. When someone new moves in, Jesus is with you. When your parents get divorced, Jesus is with you. When your family moves, Jesus is with you. When you lose a loved one, like I have this year, Jesus is with you. When you feel hurt, betrayed, abandoned, or forgotten by your family, Jesus is with you. No matter what, when your family changes, Jesus is with you. As much as we want our families to be stable and constant, it doesn't always happen. And we know that we can't control the people in our families and what they do. So since we can't stop change, and we can't control people, what can we do about it? While you can't control the external circumstances of your family, what you can do is work on your attitude and perspective. You can remember that Jesus is with you even when they're not. And you can start looking at your family change as an invitation to trust Him more. There is no question, change is difficult, especially family change. Whether it's a move, a divorce, a loss of a loved one, a new sibling, a new normal, whatever it is, it's not easy, especially when it comes to your family. Just know, you are not alone. You're not the only one dealing with change. I've dealt with change, your friends have dealt with change, and your group leader has dealt with change. No matter what, you're not alone because Jesus is with you. And you're not alone because you have a small group to talk about all this with. And if you're having a hard time dealing with a certain change in your life right now, tell your small group leader about it so that they can pray with you and care for you during this time. If you are not a part of a small group, make this week the last week that you're not a part of a small group and sign up today. Text students to 419-419-0707 or go to cedarcreek.tv/students to sign up for a group today. And as you head into your discussion with your small group, remember this: when your family changes, Jesus is with you.